In this heartfelt and powerful episode, my guest shares how courage, faith, and self-worth have shaped her journey as a public health professional, evaluator, empowerment coach, and mother. She speaks candidly about learning to honor her value in toxic systems, choosing boundaries over burnout, and embracing her full identity, rather than watering herself down to fit into spaces not built to receive her. She also reflects on integrating her faith, her purpose, and her passion for uplifting others into a life that feels whole, aligned, and authentically hers. Before we jump in, a quick note. Toward the end of our conversation, we lost the audio for the last few questions, but what you'll hear is everything that we were able to capture, and I'm grateful that we still have such a powerful conversation to share with you. You're listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, episode 33. To all the courageous Black, Indigenous, and women of color leading in public health, this podcast is your space to turn up the volume on your courage. This space centers your voice. This space celebrates your passion. This space amplifies your courage. My role? To listen, to amplify, and to stand with you in the fight for equity. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock. I'm an epidemiologist, consultant, the founder and CEO of Courageous Public Health, and the host of the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Each week, I have unfiltered conversations with BIPOC women in public health about the challenges you face, the power you hold, and your vision for the future. We talk about the authenticity, vulnerability, and courage that you bring, not just to public health, but to every part of your lives. Because courage is about action, even in fear. It's about taking up space, leading unapologetically, refusing to be erased, and knowing you never have to do it alone. If you're ready to turn up the volume on your courage, if you're ready to take up space, if you're ready to smash the racist, patriarchal, cisnormative, heteronormative, ableist, capitalistic systems, then let's dive into this brand new episode. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'd like to start by introducing myself if you're brand new to the podcast, or reintroducing myself if you're a returning listener. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock, and I am the CEO of the Courageous Public Health Consulting Firm, where we support public health organizations through workshop design and facilitation and speaking engagements. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest on this episode. Let me formally introduce her, and then we'll jump right into our conversation. Dr. Janelle Taveras began her journey in public health in 2006 with a deep passion to drive meaningful change within her community and across nations. She holds a doctorate in public health with a specialization in epidemiology and brings exceptional expertise in evaluation methods, strategic planning, and equity-centered solutions. Over the course of her career, she has authored or co-authored more than 30 public health abstracts, presentations, and publications, provided capacity building and technical assistance to health departments and HIV programs across the United States, and contributed to major national efforts, including the CDC's Ending the HIV Epidemic initiative across 57 jurisdictions. Her recent work includes developing monitoring and evaluation plans for local HIV/AIDS programs in Broward County and Pinellas County in Florida. A born-again believer since 2010, Dr. Taveras integrates her faith into every aspect of her work and life. She is deeply committed to encouraging others to pursue their God-given purpose through consistent prayer and daily communion with the Holy Spirit. Her holistic approach to ministry includes Christian fitness and worship through flag ministry, expressions that reflect her belief in honoring God with both body and spirit. A lifelong fitness enthusiast, she often says, the Holy Spirit can only go as far as the limits of our physical fitness. Dr. Taveras firmly believes that Jesus should be at the center of every core area of our lives. Through her services, products, and resources, she aims to empower individuals to live dynamic, fruitful lives rooted in Christ. She is honored to serve and walk alongside you on this transformative journey. Ready to be inspired? Let's listen to my conversation with Dr. Janelle Taveras right now. Hello, Dr. Janelle Taveras. Did I say that okay?
Yes, that was great.
Okay, good. It's really nice to have you here.
Nice to be
Yeah, welcome,
here.
welcome. So we want to give our little shout out in the beginning to our mutual friend. So Simone McPherson, who did an interview with me a little while back, introduced us. So thank you, Simone.
Yes, thank you, Simone. Hey, on this
I
end.
know. Oh, fantastic. So let's start by having you introduce yourself.
Okay, so many ways I could introduce myself. I know, I have a bio, but I would say I'm Janelle, and I help people live powerful lives. And I do that in three ways. So I have my evaluation consulting, I have empowerment services, and I also do faith centered fitness. And then we can also add I'm a super mom of almost three. You can't see it on the camera, but I am 8 months pregnant with my third
Oh,
child.
wow. Okay.
Surprise.
Surprise! I can't see it on the
You
camera.
can't see it, but that's me. That's me. And um I love every role that I have. I love everything that I do. I've been able to balance it and wrap it all in one, and so I guess that kind of sums it up in a nutshell.
Yeah, so it reminds me of the days of COVID when we would have all these Zoom calls and you wouldn't realize that, the person on the other end was pregnant or, you know, so I remember, finally meeting someone in person and being like, I had no idea you were this tall because I only saw you on Zoom sitting down. So yeah,
Right, right, right.
yeah,
And it was actually a time it was like you kind of peeked into people's lives because at least for
yeah,
me, I remember that because my two children were very young. And I had my office upstairs, and they would occasionally run in, and I'd forget to lock the
yes.
door and run out on camera, and I'm like, oh my goodness. But it was at first, it was sort of this stressful situation, and then on social media, you started to see like those funny reels of things that came out on people's cameras
Yes.
because the kids
Yes.
were in school and
Right.
like everybody was at home, and so I was like, okay, that's not so bad. My toddler's debut is not
Yeah.
terrible, but
Yes.
yeah.
I do. I remember that well. And, to some extent, I kind of have wanted to keep that vibe for this podcast where it's like, you know what? Your toddler runs in, like it's all good. It's real life. Something happens and
It's
it's
okay.
it's okay.
It's
It's okay.
okay. Like, why
Yeah.
were we so scared? Like, why are we so
Yeah.
scared of separating our professional and our personal lives
Yeah.
when that's that's who we are?
Right. We
Yeah,
are integrated people. So, yeah.
absolutely.
Let's be integrated. That's what I love. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, well, I want to jump right in with you here today. So the first question that I like to ask is about courage, and I love to remind the listeners about the difference between bravery and courage. So bravery is taking action without fear, whereas courage is taking action despite fear. And I don't know about you, but I have to practice courage a lot more than I get to practice bravery.
I
The
agree
fear is
with
real.
you. No, I
Yeah.
agree with you. Reflecting on that, I think bravery might be the outcome of practiced courage.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, but you have to do the courage part first. You got to get
Yeah.
over the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, I'd love to hear from you about some experiences from your professional life, from your personal life, when you acted courageously, and I'm sure there are many to choose from.
Oh, there's so many, so many. And I think it comes from, my first example. I'm gonna have two. I'm gonna flow here though. I have
Yeah,
like two
flow.
ones in my head that I kind of prepared for, but the first one is just about value and personal boundaries. For some odd reason, being a public health worker, you just have, let me speak for myself. I had this mentality of like serve, 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 have to bend over backwards, and then I started to have my family and I'm like, okay, now I can't bend as much, right? And I, remember this was at the health department. I'm going to say it, Florida Department of Health. I'm not going to be specific to the county, Florida Department of Health. Okay. And it's like just a lesson learned. Like people will push you as far as you're willing to go. And so I remember being in a position where I was just, I had finished my doctorate, my PhD. I had one baby, another one on the way. And I'm like, hey, these folks have not, are not commiserating me for my pay, but yet they want to give me more responsibilities. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I'm kind of coming into, okay, something's got to shift, and the atmosphere in this place was it was toxic. I'm not going to water that down. It was toxic. And it was almost like you have to earn your way, up the ladder. And the health department doesn't pay great to begin with.
Right.
So anyways, I remember, just this unhappiness that started to come over me. And I'm like, okay, something's got to give. I have to have these conversations. So I remember, talking to my supervisor, talking to my director, and I'm like, look, like everything they told me to do. Oh, what did they say? Your position description, has to have increased or this and that. So I'm like, look, I'm doing all these other things off the position description because I was a yes woman. Everything was yes, 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 because my natural inclination is to be, is a positive disposition. Like, yes, I can, and you get to the point of like, okay, yes, I can, but just because I can doesn't mean I have to.
Yes.
Right? Just because I can doesn't mean I have to. So I'm here and I'm like, look, I'm doing all these other things. Oh, well, that's out of my hands. You got to go up, the chain of command. So I'm like, oh, great. So then I'm talking to, going up the chain of my command, past the director. So I have to speak to the administrator of the health department, the top dog, to explain to them my personal value and why I should get a raise. And I remember sitting there and I was, oh my God, no, I was just like, because I wasn't the person that I am that you see here. I was on my way, but I wasn't. And so for me now it would be an act of bravery because I've learned better. But then at that moment, it was an act of courage because I was like, I was in fear. I was like, they could let me go. I felt like a liability because I had children. Like I was less than. It was the weirdest thing because now I tell working moms, like, are you kidding me? You're capable of so much more, demonstrated by holding up a family and raising lives. Like you're incredible. Don't let anybody make you feel like you're a liability or less than because you're choosing to also prioritize a family. But that's how I felt. So I was so nervous, and I remember saying, well, your degree has to be reflective of your position, like all these excuses. And I'm like, my degree's in public health. I got a doctorate in public health. I was the only one in that county with the PhD in public health. How do you not see alignment there? She didn't see it. And then basically told me, I asked you to do these things. Like she wanted some publications and stuff like that. And then she'll think about the raise. And I sat there and I said, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. What do I say? And what came out of me was, oh my God. I said, I do not have to prove anything else here at this department for this race. I have already proven myself. I don't have to prove. And at that moment, I was like, okay, she could just do whatever she wants to do, because that's what they used to do there, fair or not fair, policy, not policy. But I said it. I said it. And in my mind, I was like, okay, well, if it's not well received, it's time to get to stepping. It's time to get to stepping. And so I think that that's my first, act of courage. I was so nervous, standing up to this person of power, already in this toxic environment, feeling like I had no power. And yeah, shortly after I did leave.
You did
I
leave.
exited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. You stood up for yourself. I love it. And it's so funny you were saying that, if another woman said to you, oh, I feel like a liability, I'm not worth it, you would be like, what? No. Oh my gosh. No, that's absolutely not true. But it's amazing how we can still say those things to ourselves, even though we would never say it to someone else. And it's like, it's like to remember, no, if it's not okay for someone else, it's also not okay for me.
Exactly.
So good for you. That's a great example. That's a great example.
Yeah, exactly. We tend to, no one gets into public health trying to get rich, right? We get into public health because we want to serve. We have the heart for what we do. We never get paid enough for what we do. So it's like we take that mentality, but then we want to care for everybody and not care for ourselves.
Right.
Not care for ourselves. And so that's been a learning process for me. And I'm still learning.
Yeah. Yeah. So no more of that. Like as public health professionals, as women in public health, as a woman of color in public health, like no more of that. We don't need to do that anymore because
it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
And we're so valuable. So valuable.
And there's spaces, there's places that have the same values, that value your time.
Absolutely.
That value, just what you have going on. And I remember, the interview that I had, that I accepted the job offer, the next position. I remember I intentionally took my daughter. This was my second child. She was not even a year old. Okay. I took her to the interview to see how they would react.
Good for you.
I took her and I was like, hey, something came up. I didn't want to cancel the interview. I brought my daughter, and it was this incredible response. And so I'm going to give a shout out to this place. This is Centerlink. It's a national resource center for LGBT centers in Fort Lauderdale. They were amazing. I remember I came up and immediately like staff came to greet me like no problem, we'll watch her. And I was like, okay, okay.
Yes, big shout out to Centerlink. That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
Exactly. There's spaces that do receive
Yeah.
have the same values and do receive, all of who we are. And so they were one of them, and I was very thankful to end up in that space after the health department. It was a very healing space.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's so good. It's so good to find places like that,
Yeah.
And you're right. They're out there. They're out there. And yeah, we get to give them lots of positives so that they continue to bring that vibe, and so that other places, do the same.
Absolutely.
Because yes, we should get to be all of the things all of the time. All of ourselves all of the time.
All of ourselves all the time. And I think this kind of stems into like the next example that I wanted to give about being
Yeah.
about being courageous, courageous public health, and just showing up. And so another really important part of who I am is a person of faith, a person of faith. And I worked in HIV prevention and a lot of marginalized communities. A lot of people have experienced church hurt, right? And I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that. And I also, apologize for those that say that they're Christian and supposed to be full of love and not. And I apologize and I acknowledge that. And so, what happens is the result is there's hurt. Hurt breeds more hurt until you break the cycle, right? And so in that, there was also fear in watering myself down, and I love communities. I love people. I love people. This is why I do what I do. And everyone's on their path. I don't judge people, but I want to love people, so I have to show up as myself. And like you said before, what you want to encourage somebody else to do also applies to you. So if we're encouraging people to show up and be their authentic selves, I needed to show up and be my authentic self as well, and I caught myself sort of watering myself down because of that fear of being rejected, not being accepted by the communities that I serve, and so I don't think I have like it's not like one specific example, for this one, but it's been like a trial and error. Like it's this continuous act of being courageous, and when it's a time to express my faith, because my faith is it's how I'm able to love, it's how I'm able. I serve a God that loves. I'm Christian, and we serve a God of love. That's the first thing. He is love. And so I want to be able to show up and to love in as much as I can. And so if I'm watering myself, I'm watering down myself. I can't do that, and then wanting to say things to people. And so anyways, I've just gotten into the practice of like, okay, Janelle, just say it, and, I had this one colleague tell me, she's like, Janelle, because I also don't, like, it's just this continuous, like, not wanting to be rejected, wanting to be accepted thing that we all go
Sure.
through,
Yes.
And she said, Janelle, you don't have to say that you're a Christian. It's like you just walk in the room and you know. You just know. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, no, it's just how you are. It's how you interact and stuff. And I said, you know what? I've just been practicing being like authentic in my faith, authentic in my Christianity, authentic in my love, like versus, like judgment, like the same criteria that I have for myself. It's for me. It's for me. It's not for others. It's not for others. And I don't judge others, but how can I show up for others? How can I give them a word of encouragement? How can I share God's love with them? Because I firmly believe, God just loves all of us, has an immense love for all of us, for all of his children, regardless, He might not be happy with the things that we're doing. Like, which parent is happy with all the things that our children are doing, but we never stop loving them. And I think also having children just made me more aware of that. And also working in public health, like there's so many issues that are just so deep rooted that public health can't solve. We get to a place where it's the end of ourselves, it's the end of science, it's the end of what we're capable of, and firmly believe that love is the answer, that God is the answer, that there's healing and there's work that needs to get done underneath, that needs to happen, that's supernatural, that's outside of the scope of our reasoning and our understanding. And, as a person of science, a person of research, I've heard people say, like, faith is for dummies, kind of. Like, it's people have faith because they're ignorant, and I'm like, that's not been my case. I'm not ignorant. I'm very intelligent. And the more I look into it, the more I do my research, the more I seek truth, the more it comes to the conclusion that we're part of something greater here. There's purpose in all of us. Everyone has a calling, has a purpose, and has a path. And this is why I'm just so passionate about empowering people, and why, I do the evaluation consulting. I love it. I have a coaching style to what I do. And so I like to get intimate. I like to get down and dirty, personal. I like to empower others with information so they're not dependent on me, and they just feel great moving forward, after our interaction. But I like to empower the person too. Part of my empowerment services is helping people find their purpose. In this grand scheme, what is your gifting? What is your calling? What is your purpose? Helping people find their identity in Christ, their true identity. And then, of course, also holistically, I do the faith-centered fitness. I do teachings on fitness, but holistic. So spirit, soul, and body. And also do Christian Zumba. So,
okay, well, that's cool.
I'm dancing queen over here.
Yes,
queen.
The Zumba Queen.
Yeah,
Christian
that was
Queen.
that was my title, and I'm like, I don't even know what to call it anymore, because now I do Christian Zumba. If you looked at it, I mean, it's really like or hear it, it's really no difference, except. I find Christian music to be just the highest level of positivity you can ever imagine. And I want elevated Zumba. I don't know what to call it, but it's an amazing experience because it just taps into your spirit, not just your soul, which is a difference. I want people to feel that connectivity beyond who even we categorize ourselves to be, because there's an identity that no one can strip you of. Mm-hmm. There's an intrinsic value in every human being, and it's there because God placed it there. God created you. God doesn't make junk. Every person has his value. And so when I want people to feel that, to know that with all certainty, to know that they have a value, they have a purpose, and to find it. And to live powerfully and to live authentically and not have to justify their path, right? Everyone has a path. Everyone makes mistakes, and you have to let people be free to travel their path.
Yes. I love the quote, God doesn't make junk.
No, he does not.
It's just, that's like, yeah, that's a great quote. And I love that you bring love to all of these things that you're doing. Like that, I can totally see that as like the through line of all the parts of your life. That's just a beautiful way to be.
Thank you. It's an amazing space to be.
Sometimes courage is reaching for what steadies you when everything else feels unsteady. Sometimes courage is rebuilding your life from the inside out, body, spirit, and purpose together. Sometimes courage is trusting the voice within that tells you it's time to take the next step, even when the path isn't clear. Dr. Janelle Taveras reminds us that for many, healing and faith are intertwined, and that every breakthrough begins with choosing honesty, alignment, and the courage to start again. You can connect with Dr. Taveras on LinkedIn to learn more about her work, her ministry, and her courage. All the links to connect with her are in the show notes for episode 33 on our website, courageouspublichealth.com. Before you return to your day, take a moment to sign up for the weekly Courageous Public Health podcast updates at courageouspublichealth.com. It's the easiest way to stay close to these conversations and the courage they spark. Thanks so much for being here. Until our next episode, stay courageous. Thank you for listening to the Courageous Public Health podcast. Visit courageouspublichealth.com to find the show notes for each episode and learn how to connect with us.